Hello and welcome to my very first podcast entitled The Objective. I'm your host Jay, and today our topic is objectivity, how it relates to conservatism. I'm actually new to the podcast scene. As a matter of fact, just the other day, I downloaded 2 applications for my phone where I found some pretty interesting podcasts. And to be honest, I've always flirted with the idea, but I never exactly knew how to start. So with the help of some of my tech-savvy friends, namely Alex, if you're listening, thank you, buddy. And just doing some personal research, I decided to get started, and here we are today. So this is very exciting for me. Just to give you a heads up as to what the channel will consist of, I'll be looking at world events. I'll be giving political commentary. We'll be looking at ideas, different worldviews, and obviously I will be accepting emails and questions. So I'm hoping that as we navigate through this episode, and as a matter of fact, as we navigate through this year and the episodes to come, I'm just hoping that you can listen with an open mind and see what you can learn. And you know, I just want to be able to challenge everyone who listens. It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you find yourself on, whether you're a liberal or a conservative or a libertarian, a moderate, whatever you are, whether you're on the left side, the right side, the bottom or the top, it doesn't matter how you look at the spectrum. The end goal of this podcast is to explore different ideas, to keep current with today's issues. And I was thinking the other day, it's really a great thing to be alive in this generation. Very seldom do we go through such dynamic changes as you see us going through right now, namely the United States of America. But on a broader spectrum, the entire globe, because what's happening in America right now will affect the globe. This is not only a battle of different bills and different executive orders. This is a battle of ideology, a battle of ideas, a battle of principle. And so to get into our topic today, again, the title is Objectivity, how it relates to conservatism. In order to understand objectivity, we need to look at subjectivity. What does it mean to be subjective? Well, like many of you, the word that comes to mind when I think of being subjective is to have a personal bias. Being subjective in that realm of thinking, you have personal experiences. You have personal feelings, personal tastes and desires. The biggest word, however, like I said previously, was bias. And I would be dishonest if I said that having a bias is exclusive to a particular political group. Because if the truth were to be told today, every single person that bleeds blood, that breathes oxygen, that has bones and organs and a mind, has a bias. But the question isn't so much, do we have a bias? The question, or a better question would be, how much emphasis do we put on that bias? Do we allow that bias to steer our ways of thinking, our ideologies, our values? On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have objectivity. And objectivity is generally referring to coming to a conclusion about a particular subject without partiality. Without being influenced by external forces and external ideas, external experiences, kind of stepping outside of the personal, stepping outside of the individual and looking at things on a whole. For example, In today's day and age, it's very strange for a African American to consider themselves a Republican. Subjectivity would have it that African American individual be a liberal, because there has been a trend of thought that says the liberals are the party for the minority. And we'll get into that later, but that is a very surface mindset that neglects all kinds of critical thinking. As a matter of fact, the left has betrayed critical thinking. They have sacrificed critical thinking on the surface and on the altar of groupthink. In terms of objectivity, if we were to take it a step further in the right direction, pun intended, we look at the idea of absolute truth. And essentially, to Christian conservatives, and I'm not going to rule out all liberals, especially liberal Christians, but absolute truth equates to God's truth in a broad sense. Absolute truth is at enmity with subjectivity. Because on the opposite side of absolute truth, you have relative truth. To the left, truth is nothing but relative. To the right, truth is a value. It's all about principles. That's what it boils down to. And surely, folks, principles are bipartisan. The left has principles, and the right has principle. Now, when you think of liberal principles, they tend to operate under the realm, within the realm of social justice. Conservative principles tend to operate in the realm of justice. And of course, I don't want to go too in depth on that topic, although don't get it wrong, that is a very important topic that we will delve into in future podcasts. But like I said, just to get it, just consider this. Liberal principles tend to operate in the realm of social justice. Conservative principles tend to operate in the realm of justice. There is a stark contrast between justice and social justice. There is a fundamental difference between these two things, and we will explore it later. So be sure to stay tuned, folks. Both the left and right have biases. Let's not for a moment think that biases are partisan. Let's not get it confused and be unrealistic and say that having a bias, a personal bias, is something that is exclusive to the left or the right. Because like we established before, biases are human. So on one side, typically the right, you have the cold and unapologetic facts that demand a level of accountability and responsibility. On the left-hand side, you have the warmth of individual liberations and freedoms to do what is right for her or him. I'm sure you can see the appeal of the latter. Ending off here, folks. Dr. Ben Carson, say what you will of him. A lot of people did not hear or know about him prior to his campaign for the presidency. The first time that I heard about Dr. Ben Carson was when I read the book Gifted Hands. An extraordinary story of some of his greatest accomplishments, and an incredible inspirational story about his humble beginnings. So Dr. Ben Carson, what he said at the president's breakfast, to forgive my ignorance, I'm not quite sure of the actual event name, but former President Barack Obama was there. It was the breakfast at the White House, I believe. Forgive me if I'm mistaken. And Dr. Ben Carson, he gave a discourse that I thought was extraordinary. Very plausible ideas, very practical solutions to very complex issues in the country. And after that speech, I really saw him as a possible candidate for the White House. But that's another topic. Back to this closing subject that I want to end on. Dr. Ben Carson, during this discourse, he stated something that I thought was phenomenal, and it really stayed with me. What he said was, and this is not verbatim, I'm just providing the idea of what he said. He said, when you look at the eagle has a left wing and it has a right wing. And that resonated with me. The government of the United States of America, there are two main political parties, the left and the right. Ben Carson was saying that in order for the country to soar, you need to have a balance between both ideologies. In order for a human to be just that, you have to be able to have an objective side and a subjective side. An objective side to be impartial, and a subjective side to be compassionate. Thanks so much for tuning in to The Objective. May it be our objective to be objective. Have a good night.